The wind howled outside, rattling the windows of our cramped Brooklyn apartment like it wanted to break in and steal what little warmth we had. I stood in the kitchen, stirring instant coffee, when I heard Ethan's teeth chattering from the living room. He was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, looking like a lost puppy in a snowstorm. "Yo, Ethan, you good?" I called, trying to mask my concern with a grin. He didn't answer, just shivered harder, his pale cheeks flushed from the cold. Our heater had died 2 days ago, and the landlord's promises of a fix were as empty as the fridge. I wasn't exactly thriving either, but Ethan looked like he was one gust away from turning into an icicle. I crossed the room, my socks sliding on the hardwood, and plopped down beside him. "Dude, you're freezing. Hug me or something. Share the body heat." It was a joke, thrown out carelessly, the kind of thing I'd say to make him laugh. Ethan always laughed at my dumb quips, his hazel eyes crinkling in a way that made the room feel less like a freezer. But this time, he didn't laugh. He looked at me, those eyes wide and searching, like I'd just offered him a lifeline. Seriously. His voice was soft, almost drowned out by the wind. I shrugged, playing it cool despite the sudden thump in my chest. "Yeah, man. Come here." I opened my arms, expecting him to roll his eyes and shove me off. Instead, he hesitated, then scooted closer, tucking himself against my side. His body was cold, his shoulder pressing into my chest, and I could feel the rapid beat of his heart, or maybe it was mine. I wrapped my arms around him, telling myself it was just to keep him warm. Nothing more. But the way he sighed, like he'd been holding his breath for years, made my throat tighten. Ethan and I had been roommates for 6 months, thrown together by a Craigslist ad and a mutual desperation for cheap rent. I was Julian Carter, a 24-year-old graphic designer scraping by on freelance gigs, with a knack for bad puns and worse cooking. Ethan Brooks was a quiet barista with a sketchbook full of half-finished drawings and a past he never talked about. We clicked in that easy way strangers sometimes do, trading sarcastic banter over late-night pizza and dodging the roaches that claimed our kitchen. But this hug was new territory, and it felt like stepping onto thin ice. The next morning, I woke up to find Ethan still pressed against me on the couch, his head tucked under my chin. I didn't move, afraid to break whatever fragile thing had settled between us. He stirred, mumbling something incoherent, and his hand curled against my chest. My heart did a stupid flip, and I blamed it on the coffee I hadn't even drunk yet. This was Ethan, my roommate, my friend. I wasn't supposed to feel like this, like I wanted to stay there forever, shielding him from the cold and whatever else made him look so damn sad sometimes. By noon, the heater was still dead, and Ethan was back to shivering. I caught him glancing at me, like he was waiting for something. "What?" I asked, tossing a dish towel at him. He caught it, twisting it in his hands. "Can we do that again? The hug thing." His voice was barely above a whisper, and his cheeks were pink. Not from the cold this time. I laughed, trying to keep it light. "You're gonna make this a habit." "Huh." But I opened my arms again, and he didn't hesitate, curling into me like he belonged there. It became our thing, that week hugging to stay warm, joking to keep it casual. But every time his arms wrapped around me, it felt less like a joke and more like a confession neither of us was ready to make. On the 5th night, the cold snap broke, but Ethan didn't. He showed up at my bedroom door, his blanket trailing behind him like a cape. "Can I?" He didn't finish, just gestured vaguely at my bed. My brain short-circuited, but I nodded, scooting over to make room. He climbed in, and we lay there, not touching at first, the silence heavy with things unsaid. Then he reached for me, his hand finding mine under the covers, and I swear my heart stopped. Julian, he whispered, his voice shaking. I don't just need this because it's cold. I turned to face him, our noses inches apart. His eyes were wide, vulnerable, like he was handing me his heart and begging me not to break it. Ethan, I didn't know what to say, didn't know how to name the ache in my chest. So I pulled him closer, holding him like I'd never let go. And in that moment, I knew I wouldn't. The days blurred into a rhythm of work, coffee, and Ethan in my bed, his warmth chasing away the chill I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. But it wasn't all soft edges and warm blankets. Ethan's past was a shadow that followed him, surfacing in the way he flinched at loud noises or clammed up when I asked about his family. I wanted to know him, all of him, but every time I pushed, he pulled back, and it stung more than I cared to admit. One night, as we lay tangled together, he traced circles on my palm and said, "You're too good to me, Jules." His voice was heavy, like he was carrying a weight I couldn't see. "Nah," I said, nudging him. "You're just easy to be good to." But his smile didn't reach his eyes, and I felt the first crack in the fragile thing we'd built. The next week, I started noticing things about Ethan I'd missed before. The way his hands shook when he got a text from an unknown number. The way he'd stare out the window, lost in thoughts he wouldn't share. I wanted to ask, to dig into whatever was haunting him. But every time I tried, he'd deflect with a joke or a kiss that left me dizzy and distracted. Kissing Ethan was like catching lightning electric. Fleeting. And dangerous if you held on too long. We were in uncharted waters now. No longer just roommates sharing body heat. Every night, he'd slip into my bed, and we'd talk about everything and nothing, our favorite movies, the worst customers at his coffee shop, the way the city lights looked like stars from our fire escape. But the deeper stuff, the stuff that mattered, stayed locked away. I told myself it was fine. That love didn't need to know everything. But the truth was, I was falling for him. Hard. And the not knowing was starting to hurt. One evening, I came home to find Ethan pacing the living room, his phone clutched in his hand. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed, and my stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" I asked, dropping my bag by the door. "Nothing," he said too quickly, shoving his phone into his pocket. But I saw the way his shoulders tensed, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Ethan, talk to me." I stepped closer, reaching for him, but he flinched, and it felt like a slap. "What's going on?" He shook his head, his voice tight. "It's just family stuff. Don't worry about it." Family stuff was all he ever gave me, and it wasn't enough anymore. "I'm not just your roommate, Ethan." I stopped, not sure what I was. His boyfriend, his safe haven, the guy who was in way over his head. He looked at me then, his eyes pleading. "I know, Jules. I can't yet." "Okay." I nodded, but it wasn't okay. I wanted to be his everything, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something big, something that could break us. The next day, I found a letter shoved under our door. It was addressed to Ethan. No return address, just a scrawled name in black ink. I handed it to him, trying to ignore the way my gut twisted. He opened it, his hands trembling, and his face went white. "What is it?" I asked, but he crumpled the letter and stuffed it into his pocket. "Nothing," he said again, but his voice cracked, and he bolted to his room, slamming the door. I stood there, staring at the closed door, my heart pounding. I wanted to barge in, demand answers, but I didn't. Instead, I went to my room, pulled out my laptop, and started designing a flyer for a client, trying to drown out the questions screaming in my head. Who was Ethan running from? And why wouldn't he let me in? That night, he didn't come to my bed. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the absence of his warmth like a physical ache. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed of him leaving, his silhouette fading into the snow, and I woke up with a tightness in my chest I couldn't shake. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen, making coffee with shaking hands. "Ethan," I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. "Whatever it is, you can tell me. You know that, right?" He looked at me, his eyes glassy. "I want to. Jules. I do. But it's not that simple." "Then make it simple," I said, stepping closer. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." He laughed, a bitter sound that cut through me. "You say that now, but you don't know what you're signing up for." "Then tell me." I snapped, my frustration boiling over. "Stop shutting me out." He froze, his mug clattering to the counter. For a moment, I thought he'd walk away again. But then he sank into a chair, his head in his hands, and started talking. "My family, they kicked me out when I was 17. Because I'm gay." His voice was low, raw, like the words were being ripped out of him. "My dad, he said I was a disgrace. My mom just cried and let him do it. I've been on my own since then, moving from place to place, trying to stay ahead of them." "Them?" I asked, my heart sinking. "My dad. He's not a good guy. Jules. He's been trying to find me. To fix me." He air quoted the word, his voice dripping with bitterness. "That letter. It's from him. He knows I'm in New York." I knelt beside him, my hand on his knee. "Ethan, you're not alone anymore. I've got you." He looked at me, tears spilling over. And for the first time, I saw all of him, the fear, the pain, the hope he was too scared to hold on to. I pulled him into my arms, and he clung to me, his sobs shaking us both. In that moment, I knew I'd do anything to keep him safe, no matter what came next. Ethan's confession changed everything. The air in our apartment felt heavier, charged with the weight of his past and the unspoken promise I'd made to protect him. I didn't know how to fight a ghost like his father, but I knew I'd try. Every night, Ethan slept in my bed, his arms wrapped around me like I was his anchor, and I held him back, hoping it was enough. But the letters kept coming. Every few days, another one would appear under the door, each one more threatening than the last. "You can't run forever." One read, "I'll find you, Ethan." I wanted to burn them, to erase the fear they brought. But Ethan insisted on keeping them, like they were proof he wasn't imagining it all. I started checking the locks obsessively, glancing over my shoulder when we left the apartment. Brooklyn, once my chaotic but comforting home, felt like a maze of shadows. One night, I woke to find Ethan sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. The blue light cast sharp angles across his face, making him look older, haunted. "What's wrong?" I mumbled, reaching for him. He didn't look at me. He called. "My dad." He left a voicemail. My blood ran cold. What did he say? Ethan's voice was flat, detached. He said he's in the city. He said he's coming for me. I sat up, my heart racing. "We need to go to the police." "No." Ethan's voice was sharp, desperate. "You don't understand. Jules. He's got money. Connections. He'll twist it. Make it look like I'm the problem. I've tried before." "Then what do we do?" I asked, hating how helpless I sounded. "I don't know," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me." I grabbed his hand, pulling him back to me. "I'm already in this. Ethan, I'm not letting you face this alone." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, and then he kissed me, hard and desperate. like he was trying to memorize the feel of me. I kissed him back, pouring everything I had into it, me fear, my love, my determination to keep him safe. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine, and he whispered, "I don't deserve you." "Bullshit," I said, my voice rough. "You deserve everything." The next day, I called in sick and dragged Ethan to a self-defense class I'd found online. It was a small gym in Williamsburg, filled with people who looked like they'd seen worse days than us. The instructor, a no-nonsense woman named Maria, taught us how to block, strike, and break free. Ethan was hesitant at first, his movements stiff, but by the end, he was throwing punches with a fire I hadn't seen in him before. It wasn't much, but it was something, a way to reclaim a piece of himself. Afterward, we sat on a bench outside, sharing a coffee and watching the city pulse around us. "You're pretty badass. You know that," I said, nudging him. He smiled. "A real one this time. Only because you're here." But the peace didn't last. That night, I found Ethan packing a bag, his movements frantic. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded, grabbing his arm. "I have to go," he said, his voice trembling. "He's too close. Jules. I can't let him find you." "Ethan." "No." I pulled the bag from his hands, tossing it aside. "You're not running. Not this time. We'll figure this out together." He shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "You don't get it. He's dangerous. He hurt me before, and he'll hurt you too." "Then we'll fight him," I said, my voice fierce. "I'm not losing you." He collapsed against me, his sobs shaking us both, and I held him, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. The next morning, I called a friend from college, Mia, who worked at a legal aid clinic. She agreed to meet us, her voice calm but urgent when I told her about Ethan's dad. "Bring everything you have," she said. "Letters, voicemails, anything." We met Mia at a diner in Manhattan, the kind with sticky tables and endless coffee refills. Ethan laid out the letters, his hands shaking as he explained his past, his dad's abuse, his mom's silence, the years of running. Mia listened, her face grim but determined. "We can get a restraining order," she said. "It's not foolproof, but it's a start. And we can look into other protection safe houses, if it comes to that." Ethan nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. I reached for his hand under the table, squeezing it tight. "We've got this," I said, willing him to believe it. That night, as we lay in bed, Ethan traced the lines of my face, his touch gentle but heavy with meaning. "I'm scared, Jules," he admitted, "but I'm not alone anymore. That's because of you." I kissed him, soft and slow, trying to pour all my strength into him. "We're going to be okay," I said, hoping I was right. The restraining order went through, but it felt like a flimsy shield against the storm we knew was coming. Ethan's dad was a shadow that loomed larger with every passing day, and I could see the toll it took on Ethan, the way he jumped at every loud noise, the way his smiles grew rarer. But he didn't run, and neither did I. We were in this together, for better or worse. One night, as we sat on the fire escape, wrapped in a blanket and sharing a cigarette, Ethan turned to me. "If something happens to me, promise you'll keep going," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Don't talk like that," I snapped, my heart twisting. "Nothing's gonna happen." He looked at me, his eyes fierce. "Promise me, Jules." I swallowed hard, nodding. "Only if you promise to fight. No giving up." He smiled, a small, sad thing, and leaned his head on my shoulder. "Deal." The The next day, everything fell apart. I was at a client meeting when my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. He's here. My heart stopped, and I bolted, leaving my laptop and half-finished designs behind. I ran the 6 blocks to our apartment, my lungs burning, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When I got there, the door was ajar, and the apartment was trashed, books scattered, furniture overturned. Ethan was in the living room, backed against the wall, his face pale but defiant. A man stood in front of him, tall and broad, his face twisted with rage. Ethan's father. Get away from him, I growled, stepping between them. The man sneered, his eyes cold. This doesn't concern you, kid. It concerns me plenty, I said, my fists clenched. You're not touching him. Ethan's dad laughed, a cruel sound that made my skin crawl. You think you can stop me? He's my son. I'll do what needs to be done. Ethan's hand grabbed mine, his grip tight. Jules. Don't, he whispered. But I shook my head. You lost the right to call him your son when you threw him out, I said, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at me. Get out, or I'm calling the cops. He took a step closer, and I braced myself, ready to fight. But then Ethan stepped forward, his voice shaking but strong. I'm not your son anymore. I'm not your problem. Leave, or I'll make sure everyone knows what you did to me. The room went silent, the weight of Ethan's words hanging between us. His dad's face twisted, but something in Ethan's eyes, something fierce and unbroken, made him falter. He muttered a curse and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I turned to Ethan, pulling him into my arms. You okay? I asked, my voice muffled against his hair. He nodded, his breath shaky. Yeah, because of you. The police came, took our statements, and promised to enforce the restraining order. Ethan's dad was gone, for now, but we both knew it wasn't over. Still, something had shifted. Ethan stood taller, his eyes brighter, like he'd reclaimed a piece of himself. We spent the next week rebuilding, fixing the apartment, replacing broken things, and holding each other through the nights. Ethan started opening up more, sharing stories of his childhood, the good and the bad. I listened, my heart swelling with every word, knowing how much it cost him to let me in. One evening, as we sat on the couch, Ethan turned to me, his eyes soft but serious. I love you, Jules, he said, the words simple but heavy. Not just because you saved me, because you saw me, even when I didn't want to be seen. I kissed him, my heart full to bursting. I love you too, I said, and it felt like the truest thing I'd ever said. Months later, we moved to a new apartment, one with a working heater and a view of the river. Ethan's dad was still out there, but we were stronger now, together. Every night, Ethan climbed into my bed, holding me like he'd never let go, and I knew I'd never want him to. What started as a joke in a freezing apartment had become our lithium messy, beautiful, hard-won love that neither of us would trade for anything.